Hello and welcome back to Lorehammer. I'm your host, Mark, and we got another battery bust here. Don't worry, this might be the last one. Battery bust number 6. Joining me today, we got Christian. Hey, you ever been electrocuted before?
Not intentionally, no. Sometimes on the weekend I do like to do it for fun, but
Yes, I love that kind
between
of
me and
environment
On
for
the
electricity. Yes, sir. We also got Jordan. Welcome to this episode.
Hello, thank you for having me.
You got to talk quick because we don't know when the battery's going to die, so that's where we're at with life. Yeah, battery bust. This might be one of the last ones you get. My batteries actually arrived today. I just did not have time to install them, so here's to that. But this episode, basically, we're gonna talk till they implode. We got a couple of different rabbit trails that we want to go down together. Really, let's just get after it. Christian, last time we did one, we kind of left mid sentence quite literally because of the imploding battery. So where did we leave off?
oh, I wish you had asked me that question before the show started because I don't remember.
Ah.
I think we were talking about one of my armies, but
Yeah, you had some great ones. I think the Knights of Terra was the one that really kind of just keeps coming back to me, man.
Yeah, I have. So here's my problem: is I over the years have acquired lots of different Space Marine parts that I don't use. Like I have lots of Black Templar parts, lots of Dark Angel parts, both of which are very knightly in appearance. So they would be a good way to combine and get to use those bits. I'm just trying to clear up my bits box like in an effective way. I got lots of leftovers from armies that I've been working on, right? So
how do you?
It's a good way to
Your place is a disaster. It is.
shut up, Jordan.
Do you guys ever see that show Hoarders? You're not quite there, but you come from that lineage, I think.
I'm getting there.
His
hobby space.
His hobby space is just like, I don't even know how you find anything. It's so crazy.
That's why it looks like that, because I have to root through so many boxes to get to the pieces I need. Yeah.
This is where we left off, and now it's all coming back to me. If I remember correctly, Lupercal says, Christian was trying to figure out how to justify some units been in the same unit but having different variations of the gun. So yeah, this is the heavy bolt pistol. Some have guardrails, like just nonsense.
No, not heavy bolt pistol, heavy bolters in pistol form. There's a very important distinction there. Heavy bolt pistols are somewhat normal, but heavy bolters being condensed to the size of a pistol is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have 3 of them that are different, and Grimaldus was actually mid-thought on that one too before he disappeared.
They hate.
But one thought I did have is to make them just different ranks within their unit. So like the sergeant will be wielding a varied or modified version of the one that the regular rank and file guys get. Maybe the LTs will have a similar setup, and maybe a captain.
Yeah, that kind of minute detail will keep a guy up at night. I'm like, it sounds absurd. I tell my wife the same kind of minute details, and she's like, "Are you serious?" Like,
yes.
And
it bothers me.
Oh yeah, no. If my sergeants don't have the iron skulls and specialized bolters, like, what are we doing here?
Why am I even doing this?
Yeah. How do you manage your bits collection? Like, Jordan kind of referenced that it's just chaos. Do you do like little tackle box containers, piles of sprue? What are you working with?
Piles of sprue right now. So a lot of this actually happened because we had our setup in the garage at your place before you moved away.
Yeah.
And I got all my stuff back from you. I always hated the bit spin setup that you have. Maybe it worked for you. You knew what was in there. You knew when there was a tiny little part in a big box of bits.
Yeah.
Where to find something, but I got to leave stuff on sprues so I know I can find the sprue and I can find the part.
So I'm curious, and to the people listening, those of you in the chat, like, what's your system for organizing both your bits and your paints and all that? Like, I'm sort of curious how people do it.
Yeah, the part 2 of this episode, we're going to be getting into Jordan's kind of like, you're painting right now, even. It looks like we're going to get into a little bit of
dabbling a little bit here. Yeah.
Perfect time to manipulate them into whatever painting techniques you want. So, yeah, man. I've been rocking a new setup actually that I've been quite enjoying. Instead of the bits box, it's the bit sack, where I take like a bed sheet, and yeah, you just toss all the bits in there, and then you fold it up like a homeless person, throw it over your shoulder, throw it in the closet.
It's a very mobile way to run your hobby.
Yeah. I think you've seen me do it with my Lego actually, but I transferred that to the Warhammer style, so it works quite good.
Yeah.
If it works, it works. If it works, it's not stupid.
Yeah. Like I'm at the amount of like just off bit pieces where if I lay out a king size sheet, I can get an even coverage over that whole sheet of bits, man. It's so crazy.
Sometimes you like to lay in it.
I do.
Just to see what it's like.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Hold me for once instead of aggravating me. Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I have to organize it all. The last couple of years I've been getting way more. Everything has to be in its place, otherwise I'd go. I think it's like having kids and it's so much chaos all the time.
Oh.
You have to order your world around you, otherwise you feel like you're falling into the depths of chaos.
Like part of the joy of the bits box being so big was you're doing the shuffle, you're taking the time, looking at the bits while you find the one. But yeah, there's no time for that. You need get that now. I get that. I was foolish. Time to start organizing into as Grimaldus uses fishing lure boxes. Yeah.
Lupercal was saying too, paint sets are set into boxes and paints I'm using go in a paint pot stand. Okay. Yeah. So you separate the ones you're kind of for the army you're working on and then the ones you're not using in a separate. That's a good way to do it.
Yeah. It's cool with 3D printing, all the little cool like hobby I don't know what you'd call them. Like paint holders or like hobby trays maybe would be the best, where it's like a whole tray, but it has everything built in. You know, you got your brushes, your little cup all 3D printed on there.
Yeah. That's actually not a bad idea. I should look into that.
Yeah. I think Christian, you were looking at similar ones, but with like that laser etched MDF. Maybe?
MDF. Yeah. I was looking at those for a bit, but then I
What does that mean? Laser etched MDF.
So MDF is like almost like a particle board.
Yeah, I know what MDF is, but
and then they just use lasers to cut out shapes in them.
Oh, okay.
Or like burn shapes.
For those of you who are watching and not just listening, I just got this thing like off Amazon.
That almost looks like it's MDF from.
Yeah, it's like kind of it's like a cardboard. But I like it because it just keeps everything contained. I can pick it up and move it. Blah blah blah.
What does it smell like? That might be an odd question, but
smell like burned.
Just cardboard.
Okay.
It doesn't really have a strong odor.
Yeah, no, that laser cut MDF. Since it's cut, it burns through it. It smells so good, like this smoky toxic cancer. It's so
really?
Nice. Yeah, I love it. I'll share my
smoking like a whole pack of cigarettes in one huff.
Yeah, I'll share my screen and people can look at some MDF hobby trays that I'm pulling up here. But you can kind of see this is a good example of one where it kind of has some stuff happen in paint pots. You got your stuff. You can pick it up and move it onto your shelf away from your kids' hands easily.
That must be like similar to what I got. I don't know. It looks like almost the same. Yeah.
I think it's just a matter of like how do they cut it? Like is it that but whatever. Neither here nor there.
I just got mine like randomly on Amazon. I just found like the one that was kind of in the price range I wanted. But is there like a company that sells them that you like, or does it really matter?
Chat, let us know on that. I feel like the last time I used them, it was me and Erica. We bought all that Necron terrain and a couple other pieces, and they were pretty cool. But I don't know what company we used.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it was so long ago when I was looking at mine, I don't even remember what the name of the company is anymore.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they had some really cool one with different attachments. They had like a cell phone holder so you could watch shows.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Or like a tablet holder you could put on the paint thing so you could watch a show while you paint. And then they sold all these little extra and doodads and stuff.
Cromlech apparently makes some of this, so
Okay.
yeah, they're pretty cool. I have used them before, and I do like them as a bits company, so I'd trust them.
They have really great terrain too.
Yeah. Okay.
MDF terrain.
Cool.
Big
I'm
fan.
gonna look them up. Cromlech.
Yeah. So you mentioned different scales, Christian. Where are we at? I've also been having a scaling problem myself.
Okay, so yeah, while I've been sorting through all my bits and sprue piles, I have a ton of Space Marines that have just been left on the sprue as well. Finding ways to use them, I've come across a interesting conundrum. In the last number of years, GW has decided to throw a bunch of different Space Marine scales at us now.
Many.
I am a fan. Yeah, I am a fan of them being upscaled. Say what you will about Primaris, but I do appreciate their size now to be more proportional to a Cadian figure, for example.
Ooh, fucking Jordan's looking like a Primaris right now in that muscle shirt. He's stood up. I'm scared all of a sudden and aroused. Oh my.
Working on his minis and working on his body.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Sorry to interrupt being gay there for a second. You just gotta admire the strength of another man's body. Strength respect strength.
Sometimes in the gym I just like to stare.
It is funny. It's one of those things where like being jacked, only other dudes really care about it. Like chicks don't actually care about it.
That's
You're not lifting for the girls anymore. You're lifting for the boys.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, being jacked gets the chicks whether they admit it or not. I've seen your wife. You wouldn't get her if you looked like Christian.
Okay,
true.
That's for other reasons.
Yeah.
Anyways, back to Space Marine scaling. Yeah, so Primaris, I'm a fan of the new size, whatever you say about the lore. Problem is, with the Horse Heresy sets that GW's suddenly started releasing, they started with the old Classic Marine height for the first two. They did a Mark III and a Mark IV set, I believe, Maximus armor.
Yeah.
So those are in the old Marine size. And then they suddenly, out of nowhere, after they dropped their new Chaos scale, dropped another scale that are not as tall as Primaris, but also bigger than old Marine. So you're working with 3 Space Marine scales.
What was so weird about that too is the release of that upscaled Chaos was like maybe 1 or 2 releases away from the Primaris. Like it was like on the back end of 7th edition. Like it was. They should have, they would have been in production at the same time. These models, you would have thought.
Yeah, they would have known.
They would have known at least.
Surprise.
Yeah, that was what was so weird about that in my mind.
Yeah, and they kind of justified in the lore that Primaris are just bigger than regular Marines, so it would stand to reason that they're bigger than the Chaos guys, which I don't personally like. But aside from that, the Horse Heresy Marines are also this upscaled size. So now you're working with like 3 different scales, and also I should mention that
hold on, the Primaris Marines or just a regular Astartes is bigger.
A Primaris Marine is bigger than a regular Astartes.
Yes.
Both in lore.
What are you talking about there?
So there's an original Marine scale.
Okay. Yeah.
And then there's a slightly larger Marine scale. We'll call it Horse Heresy for lack of a better defining picture. And then you have Primaris Marines. So you have 3 scales now.
Oh, that's weird. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is what's causing me anguish because now I have all parts of all 3 scales, so now I have to obviously make 3 different armies at each scale.
Yeah.
Because you can't put them together; they look strange when they're put together.
Yeah.
So hold on, before I should mention
what can we do against such reckless hate, GW? Why?
They're doing it for exactly this reason. Now I have to buy 3 different sets and build 3 different armies. They got me. They got me good. That's how they did it.
Yeah.
But anyway, Space Marine Heroes is also in that in-between scale, which is also weird. So that's like a one-off set that they released. And then they also released Death Watch guys are slightly taller than old Marines as well. Yeah. So that's a problem. But they do fit in with that Horse Heresy scale. So
they should almost like just make like why even make them a little bit bigger? Why not just go ham, like make them toy size? So
Jordan,
Well,
yes.
Good news, Jordan.
Let me pull stuff up for you.
Oh shit! Did I? They already did that.
Oh yeah,
Camera.
they have two different sizes actually for action figures. If that is your
But you can. They're actual models. They're not like action figures. Because I've seen
No,
their
they're
action figures.
No, but like
Oh,
lots
yeah,
of people will paint them up and chip them up
Oh,
properly.
really?
And
Okay.
like this one is fucking crazy. It's an Imperial Knight. It costs $700 USD, and it's fully movable.
The fun part of that though
tall
is
is
that it probably is the size of a Titan,
Yeah.
but it's cheaper than a Titan in resin. So if you want to have a Titan for cheap, you should buy the expensive action figure Knight.
Yeah, I was joking to some people that we should have done the Liber Malleus and Joy Toy scale, but
That would cost like $1 billion million.
Joy Toy scale is crazy. You can actually get them in paintable style if you look in the right places. Yeah, cool. There's like the two scales. There's like the Joy Toy and there's the McFarlane, and the McFarlane is like probably double the
Bigger.
size you would imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's bigger.
Maybe not quite double, but yeah.
It's up. It's significantly taller than the Joy Toy ones.
Yeah.
So
even those scales are fucked up. Like, can no one just measure this right for us? Like, what's the issue? Somebody get an intergalactic standard measuring tape here, please.
To me, it looks like the McFarlane ones are kind of petering out. I don't know that they're making many new ones, and I think Joy Toy is now the scale for action figures.
Cool.
And like they're releasing everything in Joy Toy. Like they have Primarchs, they have Knights, they have the most obscure minis they turned into. Yeah.
They must be sell pretty good then if they keep making them.
Yeah.
But they are pricey for what you get.
So you have these 3 different armies now and 3 different scales. Do they all have lore then to kind of justify this? Like, could these armies all, I guess, be on the table at the same time and be lore viable even,
Absolutely not.
Okay, yeah.
Well, technically 2 of them can be, but okay, here's one thing about that. The scale difference between the original Marines and the Primaris Marines is like more so than even in the lore. So in theory, you could field your Horsehair Senior Primaris Marines in the same kind of army, and they're not so different. Like they match up with their lore descriptions.
Yeah.
Yes, Primaris are slightly taller. But the mini Marines are just too small now to even like be on the same tabletop with anything else really, because they're like the same size as a regular human. But that's not my worry so much. It's not that I'm gonna field them together. It's the army has to be internally consistent, right? I'm not gonna have like a random 10-foot Space Marine and an army of like 3-foot Space Marines, right? I need all of them to look the same within their own chapter and their own lore.
What's the lore for them? Let's start with like the smallest scale, like the Firstborn.
So I have some options. And that goes back to, again, I'm just trying to burn through my bits piles, right? Like I got all these leftover pieces. So option 1 for them
so this is like not your best lore work. You're kind of like, okay, what do I have here to salvage?
What can I do with this?
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So like I said, I have a lot of Dark Angel and Black Templar pieces floating around. So obviously that tends towards the Knights of Terra idea, where I'm just mashing together anything that has like a knightly veneer, a knightly finish to them.
Yeah, paint them silver
the nice thing about
blue.
The nice thing about the older Marines too is they have a lot of options that aren't. They're starting to become now more prevalent with Primaris. When Primaris first dropped, they were very bare.
Yeah.
Like
you didn't get
the
that
old Marines
either.
had a lot of flourish.
You didn't get either like the Gothic vibe or chapter flavor. Like it was sleek.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, exactly. So now that's kind of changed, but at least since I was acquiring bits, of course, I have a huge surplus of knightly type bits because I just didn't use any of it from the past. So yeah, that's the option 1 for the, let's call them mini Marines, the older original scale Space Marines.
Okay.
Because the smallest, the squat. They have a lot of options, a lot of variability. You can pose them very differently. That's gone now with Primaris as well, right? Like they can't. Your torsos and legs are all one piece now.
Yeah.
But in the past they were separate, so you can really mix up their armor marks and stuff and just give them a good ragtag vibe, which works with the Knights of Terra idea.
Which scale is like looks most realistic to what the real life scale would be? Like if you had just infantry soldier and a primary,
Like a
or
Cadian
yeah.
or like a human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which one looks like most proportional?
Primaris Marines for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Even like, would that be an Astartes size, or is that a Primaris size?
Okay.
Lesson number 1, Jordan. Don't piss off us nerds by mixing up terms. Get him, Christian.
Okay. No. It's not the terms. It's that Astartes can come in a range of heights. At least the original Astartes. So you had Marines that can
definitely, like Games Work. I've seen that they have scales for like different types of Space Marines, and I know they're not all the same. I get like little Horus in the Horus Heresies. He's like smaller than most other Space Marines. Blah blah blah. But there is like an average height of a typical Astartes.
Yeah, which
and
is
then what?
Which
Go
is
ahead.
around 7 feet, I believe, out of armor. If I'm
Yes.
not mistaken, 8 feet in armor
Yeah,
is
8
kind of
feet
what's
in
given as an average, right? But there's a lot of variability in at least the old Marines and how they're described, like you were saying, Jordan.
Yeah.
Primaris Marines, I believe, average around 8 feet out of armor and maybe go up to 9 feet in armor.
Yeah.
And again, you always have exceptions, right? There are some huge old Astartes who are actually as big as Primaris Marines just on their own.
Right.
The Space Wolves have one guy, is it Arjak Rockfist?
Yeah,
His name?
he's pretty big.
Yeah, he's pretty big, and like there's some Marines that can only fit in Terminator armor because they're too big for power armor.
Yeah, like the
So again, there's that
Carcharodon Chapter
variability.
Master. He's one of those. Like, if you've looked at artwork for him, he looks just like that. That doesn't even look right. Like he dwarfs people. He looks like he's like 10 feet.
Space Marines.
Yeah,
like you're almost playing with Primarch heights on the smaller end of the Primarch heights by that scale.
Yeah.
So yes, in lore, technically, Primaris Marines are larger than old Astartes. I don't know if that scale translates to tabletop. It definitely doesn't translate with the old Marines. Like I said, an old mini Marine is about the same size as a human outside of power armor.
Yeah.
On the tabletop. So their scales were way off.
Yeah. What do you think about this? So, like, we got those 3 scales. Primaris is Primaris scale. Then you got kind of the Firstborn, which are technically the old original models, and the Horus Heresy models. What do we think about, like, just to solidify all the model heights? The gene seed degradates over time. So the Horus Heresy models, they're that slightly bit taller, but then over 10,000 years, they become like the original Firstborn height. And it's not because they're different. It's just that slight, like they're just not quite as
good.
And then you get that Primaris jump. So, you know, that question I kind of had for you, Christian, of could you have all of them on the table and it would almost make sense? Maybe not timeline wise, but just like.
Sure. I mean, you could. You could do that. Again, the tabletop to me.
It's not
really
even
represent the accuracy.
It's not even about tabletop. It's like if those are on the shelf, how are you like side by side, even if like one army is above the other, how are you explaining this to your children? How?
That's the important part. Well, I explained to them how GW likes our money and tricked Daddy into buying 3 of the armies.
Daddy has a problem.
No. It's the same. Like it's the same thing as if you put what do you call it? Like it's not called Titanicus anymore. What is it called?
Sure.
Like the really tiny guys.
Adeptus Mechanicus? No.
But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
right?
I do. I know what
the
you're
littlest.
Saying. Yeah.
The littlest legion. Yeah, it's like you put them on a shelf. You don't have to explain why they're just a different scale.
No, that's fine. Okay.
As long as they're internally consistent, that's what matters.
Lupercal.
So all the Marines in one chapter have to be the same height.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Okay. Lupical says the firstborn unit could be a reserve unit that didn't get the Primaris upgrade. Also, I like the idea of gathering other chapter units into the Crusade in the Dark Imperium. Cool.
Yeah.
Lupical
Yeah, that was
says,
from the
yeah. Lupical says that was similar to what I'm doing for my diorama stuff. Purge aside from the main chapter, I'm planning to do 500 points of different chapters alongside. Yeah. Some fun ideas.
Yeah, there's definitely lots of ways you can cut this cake for
Sure.
sure. And it's a problem that a lot of people who've been in the hobby for any length of time probably have.
I think
Yeah.
that's how I'm going to justify the 3 scales from now on. You got the old stronger gene seed Horus Heresy models, then you got the old firstborn that are just old and kind of worn out. Then you get the upgrade Primaris, and even Chaos fit into that scale of kind of they didn't have the same effects. Well, they did have the same effects on their gene seed. It's really not good, but they get kind of warp powered up, so they're kind of that same height. But man, that's all just like, you want to talk millimeters with me, Christian, for 25 minutes? That's what we just did, and bitch about it, and it happens.
We've been texting about this for days.
Oh my God.
The last 2 days I've been texting
They
Mark.
definitely should be standardizing it. I think that's a little ridiculous.
Like some of it was like a matter of technology too, where it's just different technology opens up different scales a little bit. Most of it's just being greedy, I think.
Yeah, the one that caught me off guard was like the Space Marine Heroes and the new Horus Heresy models, just like out of nowhere changing scales.
Yeah,
like they released 2 armor sets, Maximus and the first round of Iron Armor in the old Marine scale, and then all of a sudden they release the Corvus armor in this new scale. So now they're incompatible with the other 2, and then they re-release the Iron Armor again in the new scale, right? So now you're holding 2 sets of the same armor in 2 different scales.
Okay, well, what's your Horus Heresy lore? What bits do you have there? Fuck your firstborn, fuck the scales. What do we got with your Horus Heresy lore?
Okay, well, so this is another problem. So if you want to be lore accurate, well, first of all, okay, the models themselves, they don't carry a lot of sculpted iconography on them. They're very plain looking if you look at a lot of the new ones. And this is also relevant to you because the new Saturn IX Crusade era Mark armor is about to drop too. So that's going to be another bunch of guys added to this mess. So I'm trying to figure out, okay, like I'm going to get all this old pattern armor. And I'm like, okay, should I do a Legion then, right? To be lore accurate. So I can only pick one of the Legions. My 2 armies I'd be leaning towards would be Blood Angels and Emperor's Children. I want to do something different. A lot of my armies end up being very dark in their color schemes and stuff, and very like almost real world military colors. I want to try something very bright and vibrant, just to try something different, right? That's not normally how I paint. So I'm looking at Blood Angels and Emperor's Children, which are both, I enjoy painting like that vibrant red or that vibrant purple and gold.
Yeah.
However, their aesthetic, let's say, contrasts quite heavily with the very bare bones armors that we're given nowadays.
Yeah, like the gilded look is the perfect word to use in a text message, like that gold gild, man.
Yeah, the filigree, you want it to look like, if you're painting an Emperor's Children, you want them to look like not just a purple marine. You want them to have like something that sets them apart as an Emperor's Children. What's the singular of an Emperor's Children? Is it an Emperor's Child?
I like that.
An Emperor spawn.
Spawnling. Yeah. But yeah, you kind of want them to be lore accurate if that's like the whole thing you're hung up on. So yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do with them. The other thing I could do is make them all 40k era Marines and mix in those Space Marine hero sets with the Mark 7 armor and errant armor.
Yeah.
And so they're no longer Horus Heresy, and I'll just make a new 40k army out of them, just at that one standardized scale, and then just bash a bunch of the different armor marks together.
Yeah, it'd be a fun episode to do, like power armor of the Imperium episode. Maybe not the Imperium of Space Marines, because then you break down all those, thunder armor, then you get the iron armor, and so on and so forth. And like you said, some of them seem to be customizable. Like the Heresy armor, or the Corvus armor maybe is a little more kit bashy, but all the other ones like and the Aquila, but yeah, some are very old and like you don't see them as much. Be a fun episode.
Yeah, and there's also things about like in the lore, the Aquila being something very special to the Emperor's Children, right? So like you can't field any guys rocking an Aquila outside of that, right?
Yeah.
So there's other, if you try to be historically accurate,
yeah, which we do here.
Yeah, of course. You know, you're spitting on the lore if you don't do.
Yeah.
You have to hold yourself to a higher standard. Yeah, so then it just eliminates a bunch of different armor marks too, because like the errant armor and the Aquila armor didn't even come out till the very end of the heresy, and then very specific legions would have had access to them anyways. So then you kind of have to do Blood Angels, which is the other side of why I would do Blood Angels too, because then I could open up the number of armor sets I could use.
Yeah, to get you got to burn through those bits, and I think this is a pretty solid plan. Yeah. You work with what you're given.
And you make the best of it. Like all of us.
Okay, so
I'll update you in 5 years where this ends up.
Yeah. Well, what about the Primaris scale? Do you got kind of a idea what you want to do with
that? Yeah, my Primaris army is like my I call them Astral Marines. Their chapter symbol is ironically a lambda, but I like the A look of the lambda.
Okay.
And it's very kind of modern, kind of tactical type symbol.
You've used that on a couple chapters, like
I used to do a Genesis chapter on to and that's just because I like the symbol. It kind of crept its way back into this modern iteration. And their aesthetic is very like modern military. Their color scheme is like tan and white.
I always ask you, even just now, you're like, and what else can I tell you about them? I always ask you, like, what's their gimmick? And you're like, the gimmick is there's no gimmick. Like, they're just kind of like Space Marines. That's the fucking gimmick. They're tactical. If you were ever to say anything, maybe they're like a little modern military, but not even that. Like, it's not heavy onto that theme.
No, yeah. And I've always wanted like it. I like the standard. Everyone wants to be special Snowflake. I just want to be basic with this. And there's a uniqueness in the pursuit of basicness, because like I said, everyone else wants to be special.
The gimmick is there's no gimmick. So
get what you get.
I do like that color scheme. I wish I could pull up like you painted one model.
If you give me a second, I can go grab one.
Yeah, for sure. And now it's just me, Jordan, and 7 dudes in a live stream. What are you painting, Jordan?
Doing some Star Wars, guys.
Oh yes,
because these are the only ones I could decide on. But I'm doing easy red guard.
Perfect.
Royal guard, but I want to practice, so I thought those are like good guys to practice on because they're so easy.
Yeah. Painting's so crazy. Like, you could go so hard, man, or you could just go so casual and just boop, 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 boop. Like,
I did get a Palpatine too.
Oh, nice.
There. Once I'm done my Imperial Guard, I'll work on the Palpatine there.
Nice.
When you said Imperial Guard, I thought you were gonna do 40k Imperial Guard, but then I realized you're talking.
Yes.
No.
That was the model I was thinking of.
Yeah. So with my guys, you can see on this side, I guess, is their chapter symbol. So that's that lambda.
And you got it like 3D printed out.
Yeah. So all the chapter symbols and squad markings are all 3D printed. So they're like all protruding. And then the ranks, so the helmet, this is just a basic guy, so his helmet's the same as the rest of his armor. And the camera doesn't really do it justice.
We'll put pictures in this. You know what? Everyone knows that though, so don't feel bad. We know. We'll add 5 points on how that makes us feel. Yes.
Okay.
No, I vouch for you,
but,
man. That one was sweet.
Yeah.
Oh, you muted yourself, Christian.
Sorry, yeah. The other thing is they all kind of have the same loadout. So they all have to have a bayonet, their main weapon, a sidearm, and if they're not wearing a helmet, that the helmet is hanging on their belt.
Yeah.
So it's easier to do all that equipment on this new larger scale.
Yeah. I've always liked combat webbing, I think is kind of what you would call it. We're talking like ammo pouches, grenades, holsters, all those kind of things. And yeah, like I've always been a huge fan. You got to make your 2 frag grenades, 2 crack grenades, 2 bolter pouches. You know, yeah, combat blade, you got to have that.
Yeah.
Get them out, man.
Yeah, exactly. Show everything on them that they would be rocking.
I would tell people right now where to get bits for that, but those are my bits. They're hard to find. I'm not going to tell you my secret. So when I want them, they're mine.
Really?
Those ammo pouches, man. Now I'm sure nowadays you can just get them 3D printed, and it's not a big deal. Like we're a different fucking world, boys.
Everything's
different
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm at with my Primaris, and my Primaris all have to be Primaris. Like I'm not mixing old Marines and new Marines.
Yeah, that would just I feel like I've never.
That'd be crazy.
Yeah, I feel like I haven't seen a good chapter like that done, like where there's both scales side by side with some nice lore, or I don't know. It just feels kind of weird always.
Yeah.
Like once you have one guy cross, like everyone kind of is forced to cross, and just, I don't know. Maybe then.
Yeah, and just aesthetically, like they look so different. Like you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you do, man? What do you fucking do?
You don't mix armies is what you don't do.
Don't mix. You don't cross streams. You don't mix armies. You don't try to breed dogs and cats. These are all lessons.
Yeah. Some of them learned the hard way.
Yeah. I'm so hyped for like hobbying again. Like I feel like 3D printing is a different game since I kind of been back into it. All those different little symbols you had on them, I can't wait to get a bunch for the Liber Malleus.
Yeah, it's a game changer, man.
Yeah,
instead of like decals.
Yeah. All right, what else you got, Christian? What else did we finish on that last episode? Anything that was really burning in your heart, your soul, weighing on you? Texting me at 2 a.m, Mark.
You gotta help me with this. I gotta figure this out right now.
What am I gonna do?
I got all these bits, man. I gotta use them. Yeah. I'll keep you updated as projects progress here.
Honestly, I ran into the same scaling problem with the Liber Malleus, just with the Chaos Terminators and the Primaris Terminators being different scales, and it was just like, fuck. But whatever.
Yeah. It kills a lot of the options you can do with them too, right?
Yeah.
Like suddenly you can't access all these different poses and stuff, which nowadays is a pretty big luxury since everything's pretty monopose.
Yeah.
I will say one thing I appreciate is I've interchanged some heads and arms. Like I've put some old Marine arms, and if you do it right, you can kind of hide the scale difference. So parts you can still borrow from different streams, but
yeah. Dylan asks, would it make sense to paint prior to punching out bits? You know, it's your hobby. Ultimately, it's up to you. I have to say that, you know, everyone has to say that, but ultimately there is a right and a wrong way to paint stuff, and you don't want to paint it on the sprue. When you break it off, you leave the little gray bits of plastic showing. Like it's retarded. Like that, you would have to be retarded to think that's a good way to do it.
You know what though? I've seen some like really killer painters pull off some, and I don't know. I agree with you. Like, why would you leave that little bit?
Yeah, and like you have
to go back and touch up later.
Yeah, and you could go back and touch it up and make it awesome. Like, yeah, it seems nice. Like, it seems very useful on the sprue, but there's much better ways. Trust me. I feel like the best way to do it is, you get almost like a yardstick or maybe like a paint gallon stir stick, and you kind of just sticky tack your bases onto that. And then you can do multiple ones and you can paint, or like you can stick kind of bits onto it. Like there's just better ways.
Yeah, there are some exceptions, very rare. The odd bit that doesn't have a sprue connection on a part that needs to be painted. So like let's say the neck. So if a character's head, you can paint on the sprue and then you can just snap it off because you glue that neck down. No one's going to see that.
Yeah.
But again, it's just like you're handling the bit to take it off the sprue. Like to me, it's inconvenient. But I've seen some really talented painters paint stuff on sprues for some reason. I don't personally understand it. I don't know what the advantage is to that, but some people do, and I don't understand it.
Like
I don't know them, and I hate them.
Couldn't there just be I don't know, crevices and stuff that are really hard to get once the model's all put together, that are
Well,
a little easier.
Let me
So
pull
that's
up
a little
screen,
different even.
but
So that's called subassembly painting, and lots of actual scale modelers do that because they paint stuff that's like you'll never see. Like it's painted on the inside of a tank, for example, but
Oh,
they do
yeah.
it for accuracy.
Yeah.
And that's so subassembly painting is a technique that people do. And
Yeah.
you can get into you can rotate every piece and get into every nook and cranny, and then you assemble the whole model after the fact.
here's
But
some
some
good
people just
examples
paint.
of what you're saying here. Like head-on sprue, perfect, great way to do it. But like, let's show one other one here. Oh, here's like a good example of a bunch of things kind of just on tacks or sticks or whatever you can kind of glue onto parts that are hidden.
Yeah, so that's subassembly. It's called subassembly painting.
Yeah.
And you assemble them after you paint. But then you could also do the whole model and then just paint the whole model as it is together. It does get tricky because there's little nooks and crannies you can't really reach with the paintbrush. So you kind of have to work on either really steady hand or just not being okay with not reaching certain parts.
Yeah. Here's some all good examples. But lots of different ways for sure. Ultimately, honestly, whatever you want to get up to. When I started painting, I was painting with attack, and I had a hell of a time. Great time, in fact. So who cares,
And when he says painting with attack, he literally means attack instead of a paintbrush.
Yeah.
Like he was using the attack to apply paint to his paint.
Why was that? Why did you try that technique?
He didn't know any better.
No, twofold, man, twofold. I was painting in school when I should have. No, I shouldn't have been working. I was fine, but I was painting in school, and all we had in school was those tacks and those bulletin boards in front of us. Because I'm like, hey, man, how am I going to paint these tiny eyes? Something pointy and sharp. Oh, this was kind of, being poor as well.
Oh, yes.
Where the fuck am I going to find $4 for a paintbrush?
To paint my $80 miniature. Yeah.
Man. Typical nonsense. Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to Jordan here. It is very nice to see you paint. Let me take you back into the time machine of what I know about your hobbying journey, Jordan. Let's say we're in grade 11, grade 12, and you had maybe 10, 15 Space Marines called like the Maple Marines, and they were painted red and white, and they had a maple leaf on them.
Very cringe.
Very gay. Very gay. But no, actually very Canadian. Very Canadian. Yeah.
I guess looking back though, I'm like probably one of the least patriotic people you will find for this country. So I don't even know why I did that, but
yeah, that's so funny. Yeah, you're like, government's out to get you, but that's a different episode. Yeah, and then like you really hadn't done much. Maybe the odd thing. Like, what do you think you've all really painted?
Yeah, I've dabbled a little bit. I keep coming back to it every couple of years. Yeah, I've dabbled in Space Marines. I did just try to do like Ultramarines too one time. And again, I felt like they looked shitty. I tried painting a bunch of Rohan, Lord of the Rings. I was doing that.
That's a tough scale now. Like that's an even different scale.
There's. I forget how small they are, really.
Yeah. Yeah, you go to paint a Hobbit, and that's just like, what are we up to? It's like a penny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I would like to actually do some Lord of the Rings again. But that one thing at a time.
One thing at a time, yeah.
Go all in, Jordan. Buy everything, leave it in big piles on your floor until you get to it.
Here's a Lorehammer credit card. Go wild. $20 limit. Let's say money's not on the table. Let's say Lorehammer did give you that all expenses card because the people we're doing the Jordan's version of the Liber Malleus. However, it doesn't fucking matter. You're doing an army. You got some Eldar in front of you. What are we doing with your lore? Do you already have some?
No, I have been doing kind of background research of the Eldar. I even, just out of curiosity, few weeks back, I went and downloaded. I found on archive.org the like original codex for the Eldar.
Yeah, nice.
Because I wanted to see like what it was originally before, and I think it was just like 3 craft worlds basically.
Yeah.
Um,
The artwork in that was probably so cool. It was probably so bright and just like,
very bright,
yeah,
very like cartoonish,
yeah,
you know. But I don't know. There's some kind of cool, very 80s aesthetic to it. But
yeah.
I don't know. I was like, oh, maybe that could be like some inspiration to kind of bring back that art style. But admittedly, I was reading back in the day. The Eldar seemed to be like the most hated on, specifically for their colors and their color schemes. They were not popular, I guess, back then.
The reason for that is it was just tough to paint because you have basically your craft world and then you have all your aspects. So you technically have to learn how to paint many styles.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, you're not able to batch paint. And also, man, they have always been consistently high ranked in tournaments, consistently just like, fuck, how do you beat these guys? So it's just a little hatred there too. But yeah. So you'd go like the craft world route. Like when I was thinking how to start, I was thinking, okay, you kind of got the 3 main branches of Eldar. You got the craft world, of course, and then the Exodites, which are like the wood elves, the nature kind of guys, and then the Dark Eldar.
Yeah, the Dark Elder. Yeah. I've actually been leaning towards Craft World Eldar. I just like I've always been into like my own personal hobby horse is like ancient civilizations and stuff, and I kind of like the Eldar as a progenitor race.
Okay.
And sort of like the dominant race prior to humanity.
Yeah.
And I know there's even older races like Necron and whatever, but
I like this already. I think we're gonna have a nice little brainstorm sesh. So,
okay.
first of all, we got to say fuck GW and having to buy from them. Let's do third party. So, like, maybe what if you did like an Eldar army that came out of the warp and they are pre-fall, even like, so you get that ancient Eldar vibe where they're 20,000 years old and all of a sudden they pop into 40K. They're like, what? But that way you get different armor looks. You don't necessarily have to try to like follow something specific,
I mean, even with that, you could like give an homage to the old school Eldar that everyone hated so much, but just, maybe as a troll. But
yeah.
But yeah, like kind of they are in the lore, on the lore side, they are ancient, but also even on the painting scheme, you kind of go a little bit kind of retro 80s vibe.
Yeah. The retro.
I think that sounds like, that sounds actually kind of sweet.
Yeah, I'm just trying to pull up some minis. Like, do you have one specific like aspect that you like, or typically when I'm like building like themes or just army lists, I'm like, okay, what kind of units do I like that work in tandem, and how can I build an army list around it? We don't need to build army lists, but like, do you like any kind of unit?
I'm not sure. I do like some of the craft. Hold on, I'm just pulling it up. What were they called? The with the Lyandin craft world. It's like one of the biggest craft worlds in the Eldari Empire. But now those are with the lore you were just mentioning. I don't know if that would fit because I think they're more modern. But I'm not sure what would be like ancient craft world.
Yeah, there's a couple cool ones. Like all of them essentially kind of happened around the same time. So like we basically have the fall of the Eldar is basically around M29. The Horus Heresy happens in M30. 10,000 years pass, we're into 40K. So these craft worlds happened like 15,000 years ago. It was kind of their rough construction, and most of them none would be made before that, essentially. Because their whole point was that we see what's happening with the fall and we're fleeing it.
hold on, let me
Right,
interject
but
there.
what
Hold
would
on,
be
hold
the? Okay, go ahead, Christian.
on. You could, in theory, have craft worlds that were constructed before. There was a time where people could kind of see what was coming, and they left before the fall actually happened. Now, that's always
Yeah,
hard
like
to say in
Exodites
scale of
even kind of would be those
right.
type of people.
Yeah, but they went to Maiden Worlds. But yeah, you would have a range of time because to Eldar time, 100 years is not a long time for an Eldar, for example, right? So
Yeah,
within 100 years, you could have built a craft world that took off 100 years or 200 years before the fall. And
sure.
Eldar scale time, that would be like, oh, that was like right before it happened.
Yeah, and with prophecy
Because
too being like predominant in the Eldar
exactly,
psychic, like yeah, you really
yeah,
get a weird skew of time going.
yeah. So you could have some that are a little older than others, or like someone who had more foresight and like, no, we're building a ship and we're getting the hell out
Yeah.
of here. And they could be more culturally akin to the Eldar before the fall,
Yeah.
which would be a cool
I
kind of unique story dynamic.
Yeah, I still think you kind of got like this 5,000 year time period of craft world creation. Like there's kind of that bubble from M25 to M30. You're kind of safe to assume that yeah, you could, like I said, yeah, even like what did the Eldar look like before the fall? Like you aspect warriors, they weren't around before the fall. Those are post-fall concepts of trying to tame their soul from getting eaten, trying to do all that kind of thing, So, we don't really know what their armies look like before that. That's what I'm kind of thinking, that like ancient Eldar vibe where you could just do some weird third-party stuff where, like Mantic Games has some cool Eldar-esque. Let me just pull up some cool ones here. That would be the best way.
Yeah. Mark, while you're looking that up, Jordan, are you committed to doing a craft world that already exists or making up your own craft world, or?
I mean, I was leaning more towards an existing craft world. I was very undecided because there's quite a few.
Yeah.
Let's just do this as well. Let's open up the Lexicanum for craft worlds and see what quick ones we have.
Yeah, sure. But now what Mark's saying with like this, the pre-fall Eldar making an army like that's kind of throwing a wrench in my plans if I wanted to do that. But
well, here's
not in a bad way.
Here's
but
some
I'm like, ooh, that's interesting.
Models where they're you can tell these ones are like, okay, those are supposed to be warp spiders, howling banshees here. They're pretty bang on. Fucking tight. Now we got like these ones where they're way more like ancient alien.
I like that.
Look at that guy. Yeah, now we're talking.
Like how ancient is that? Like the golden age of the Eldar ancient? Or
yeah, like now for that you would basically say anything pre M25, because then you got basically 25 to 30 where it's that fall. We got the craft worlds kind of going out, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. No, I really like sleek looking Eldar. I feel like that's
these guys
a
are
good look for them.
very cool. I like them.
I'm digging. Like I want to buy these for myself, and I'm not a big Eldar guy.
What we're looking at is
Jordan,
Wargame exclusives. Their tech elves are super cool for this kind of like ancient Eldar. So it's like like my concept for this is like they are just on a planet, golden age of the Eldar Empire, M22. And then boom, their planet gets sucked randomly into the warp and then popped out into 40K. And they have no idea what's happening. But they have this different vibe. They're still Eldar. Maybe you adapt some stuff. Like maybe you get some Craft World Eldar if you want some. Maybe you get some Dark Eldar in there eventually, but very limited.
Yeah. Can we talk color scheme for a second?
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Just looking at these guys, definitely strong Protoss gold and blue vibes for sure.
Yeah. Now this would be like technically before Craft Worlds, right?
Yeah.
Did they have like a primary color scheme for the Empire, or was it split into different kind of chapters like how the Space Marines are?
We just don't know anything ultimately. Like
So you
Can
can
be
kind of
whatever
make
you
it
want
up.
it to be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's what I'm saying. Protoss gold and blue, man. That screams golden age.
I want to see if anyone's painted those things.
Yeah.
What were they called? Tech Eldar?
Yeah, Tech Eldar. Wargame exclusive Tech Eldar. Yeah.
Slightly different from machine elves when you're cranked out on LSD.
These guys are fucking sweet. Oh man, they have some wild stuff.
Bring them back. You can't just say that and not show.
Sorry, my friends. I don't know what happened to my screen sharing there. Look at that ship. Like, it's so Eldar, but it's like, yeah,
It's different.
it looks somehow even more advanced, which I think is just so perfect.
Yeah. No, but
Yeah.
you know what though? Like, because that actually does make sense that they would almost be more advanced because
Yeah.
they would their society would go through like a degradation, and it would be because when you're going on the craft worlds become so they're like societies within themselves, and so they develop like their own culture and their own aesthetic,
Yeah.
and they would kind of split off from the more uniform, sleek, smoothed edge appearance that they probably, this is just my own headcanon,
Yeah.
appearance that they'd have like prior to the fall.
Yeah.
But that's just kind of what I would think. So it actually kind of makes sense that, in fact, in our own history, there are some civilizations who have gone like totally backwards in even in technology and in aesthetics, and they go from like they go from using bronze or highly advanced tools to like going very primitive again because of some sort of catastrophe that happens to them. So it actually totally would make sense that they're almost look, I don't know if they are literally more advanced, but they look more advanced.
Yeah. I imagine them to, that more advanced, like, just makes me think of their mentality when they come and they see current Eldar, just that, like, they look down on them like the current Eldar look down on the humans,
On the rest of it.
I have pulled up here, this is like their version of a Wraith construct, and that enters weird territory. You could, like, they're not trapping souls at this point, so any kind of Wraith constructs would not have existed if you're building like a theme. Now, having said that, it's very easy to say it's just a mechanical mech. They did have tons of automaton,
Yeah, I'm looking, like, no one has pictures of their paintings of these tech eldars.
I think they're sweet. Oh, that's
Tech elves. Maybe I'll look
Yeah.
at
What do you think of their vehicles? Like, they
Tech elves war game.
look tight, like, very compact, man.
I just kind of want to
Neat.
see if anyone has an example of color schemes. Yeah, not really.
Jordan, be creative. Create your own
Well, I will, but I still need a little bit of
inspiration.
Yeah.
Yeah, look up a little game called StarCraft, and
Yeah. Okay.
the other
color
direction you
schemes.
could go with it is like a purpley techie color, but I feel like there's too many purples.
Yeah.
Would you maybe even do like a almost Tron kind of
that could be
cyberpunk
cool.
glowing light look?
I don't know. I kind of like the more like pompous, high. I almost think leading to what Christian was saying, more gold, maybe even some blue. I mean, purple would fit that description too. But yeah, you were saying there is a lot of purple. I know, like Emperor's Children and whatnot. A lot of people like to do that. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe like a dab of purple somewhere, but
Yeah, it's like maybe a highlight color. A bone white too would be hell. It would be absolute hell for you to paint, but a bone white would also look kind of cool with these guys. You could also go full metallic silver. Not my favorite, but just considering the whole tech elf theme, could probably look good in a almost Necron looking silver.
Yeah, that's
to me that'd be too Necron. I personally don't like it, but I'm just throwing out options.
I actually
all these minis, man, making me hand check here.
Oh man, where?
Click on that Scorched Warriors. I want to see those guys up close. Get real close.
Those would be
Where are
like
pictures?
the fire dragons.
Dragons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Dude, Jordan, if you don't do this, man, I'm gonna do it. So you better save me from myself.
Oh, I'm
I
definitely
would-
doing this.
I would
I've already
definitely
just-
avoid like a lot of the aspect warriors. Not saying you could do it, but it looks like they have enough variety of non like clearly like that one was clearly fire dragons, you know, and there's been clearly some warp spiders as well, but that and like clearly howling banshees. These ones, you know, but
Yeah.
these ones,
The Scouts or Rangers.
well, yeah, but those ones like. you
Yeah,
don't-
like anyone could wear a hood.
Exactly. That's a great way of saying it, as opposed to having some crazy flailing mane of hair out the back for no apparent reason
Well,
other than to be sexy.
I guess the next question for Jordan would be: are you trying to make them tabletop playable, or is this just for fun and
It's
aesthetics?
madness.
Because if it's not tabletop playable, depending on how these minis are built, if they're just 3D prints all one piece, or if you can swap out heads and things.
This is bits.
Another thing
This is Wargame exclusive. Does like your classic bits.
Yeah, but these look a little different than their normal stuff. But regardless, it
Sure.
could be the case that their heads are swappable. Point is you don't have to build them as a unit, right? So the way Eldar play typically is, you all have one type of gun in a squad, like you were saying, the Fire Drakes. But you could buy that and buy another set and then distribute the guys amongst the squad. So this guy's just the Melta guy in a squad of other weapons. So you can mix and match if you don't care about tabletop playability. It just opens up more options for you.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of like a more uniform.
Yeah.
But maybe.
This mech is
I'm
pretty
just throwing out the
cool.
options, man.
This mech's a pretty cool. Like, since you can't do Wraith units, like this is a Wraith unit that the cockpit's open and has a guy seated, so it's an Eldar mech, which was pretty nice.
Oh yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
How big is that? Only $50.
I think
Yeah.
that's supposed to be a Warwalker, Mark.
A Warlock?
Warwalker?
Or a Warwalk? Maybe you're right.
Yeah. Which is
Um,
fine.
No, but like this is why I think you're like if you look at that now, he's got the cockpit of the Wraith.
And now he looks like a Wraith construct, yeah.
So
yeah, again, I think it's not the worst thing. Like you're saying, they do have autonomous structures, AI and other things. Oh, I want to see that transport tank. That thing looks killer.
yeah, I'm loving this. I love this idea, honestly. Ancient Eldar, you can paint it however. You don't even need to be lore accurate at all, Jordan, which I think you're gonna really like. You can write whatever you want. They just have to remain true to like Eldar anatomy.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to go like too far off the beaten path, but as long as there's like some thread, like you can trace these guys, the lineage of the Eldar back to these guys.
Yeah.
Something like that. I would even like to maybe I'll look at some of the like current Eldar, like the bigger ones, like I was telling you about the what was that one?
Iandan?
Yeah, the Iandan. Like maybe just incorporate a little bit of that color scheme a little bit so that there's sort of this thread that it's like you
like a through line.
So
so
then
they're descendant, right? But
yeah, maybe what we should do then is we should flip it. So instead of being time traveling from the past forward, you do from the forward, like at the future to the past. So that way you can have that through line, because it's like, well, eventually in one kind of timeline, Iandan does become these guys, and then you can paint that color scheme through. You could even incorporate GW models too, because technically then like aspect warriors would be a thing. So then you kind of get both best of both worlds, like you're kind of going for.
Yeah, that's true.
Time like shenanigans sometimes is retarded. Like, but 40K you get away with it because of the warp. It's so easy.
Yeah,
like,
it's true.
That's not my favorite idea, but you don't necessarily have to go back in time. I get what Jordan's saying. Like, these guys could be the predecessors for what will become other things.
Sure.
But the predecessors also, got flung into the future. So now they still look like or have that feeling of that through line without having to give that up or without having to go back in time either.
Sure.
Like the way an ape also has a face that has 2 eyes, a nose, and a mouth, right? Like some things are just gonna carry on regardless of what craft world they ended up becoming
Yeah.
or spawned off from maybe someone from them, right?
Man, these
Yeah.
minis. Oh, look at this cute little Tech Pirates land sharks. Fucking cute.
It looks like these tech pirates are the equivalent of Corsairs. Corsair versions of these guys.
Oh, look at these fucking exodites on the Raptors. I've never seen like a good, like actual official done one of these. Fantastic.
Ooh, these there's if you look up Star Watchers Vipers, they're pretty sweet too. They're almost like ninja looking,
Vipers.
almost look like Predator.
I'm not sure if I'm finding them.
They're from War Games exclusive too.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm on War Games exclusive. Sorry.
Yeah.
Like a
If you want to go for the Predator vibe, which definitely Striking Scorpions do
Yeah.
play on, there's a set that totally plays on them. I'll have to look it up here.
Yeah.
Give me a sec.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming these War Game exclusive is ripping something off from Games Workshop. I'm
Sure.
not sure.
Games Workshop ripped off everything first.
Did they now?
Yes, absolutely. If you look up, give me a sec here. I'm almost there. Artel W. They have they're called Shadow Hunters by Artel W, and they're literally striking like predator poses with the skulls and stuff. These are my favorite versions of the Striking Scorpions.
Okay, pull them up on yours. I'm just showing everyone the Star Watcher Vipers, which I think are kind of sick.
Oh, I don't know how to pull things up. Mark, if you want to search them in the background. I'm not Jamie.
Yeah, I'm just sorry. I'm writing chatbot something sweet. I'm clicky clacking.
I will, Jordan, I'll send you the link in the chat, and then you can blow it up if that's
Sure.
a little more.
Yeah, I really like that idea. That's like a cool angle to go on, and I especially like going into like the ancient past and exploring those. Like I think there could be a lot of lore you could write on that.
Yeah. On the quick chatbot read, this is what we got. I asked it, can you write a 500-word short story about Eldar pre-fall, who in M25 got sucked into warp and high tech and have none of the current Eldar tech? Oh, that should have said like culture. But it's a flow through pre-Eldar Empire. So it's called Echoes of an Unwritten Future. The sky above Yildiz shimmered. I don't want this. This is like a short story. We need like a Let's Canon style article. I fucked up, boys. I fucked up.
Just
Know your place, Mark.
modify the prompt.
Yeah.
Yeah, these guys. Yeah, these guys are like predators too. Actually,
Yeah.
they're more almost like the which one the one I was just on. I can't remember. Sorry, the name escapes me. Yeah, it seems like they're
exclusive.
Yeah, the War Games exclusive. They're riffing off this a little bit, but on the War Games exclusive, they're more like tech armor, and
Yeah.
this one is more kind of more primal.
Yeah, absolutely. And these are
shit,
by far
yes.
my favorite.
Yeah, that was a
I
sweet.
love.
I like
Yeah,
this too, but I like
predators.
the other one as well. Again,
Yeah.
it's almost like a precursor.
Yeah.
Man, very nice stuff. I like it. Do you imagine like the golden age Eldar, this pre-Eldar Empire, like how do they kind of look at the galaxy? Like are they at first kind of optimistic, almost maybe like the Tau? Or do you kind of see them more like the Necron, where they're like just so superior, they've already conquered it all?
I do kind of view them that way. There would be like a very entrenched aristocracy, and all their institutions would be very infragile or inflexible, rather, and incapable of adapting to the changing world.
Yeah.
That's how I would kind of see it.
Why do you need to adapt when you're already the best, Jordan?
Yeah,
my
well,
call.
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's what people that to me that's kind of how I would like. Those would be sort of the angles I would go. But very aristocratic and very like high-minded.
Yeah.
But I would almost think even not even like guys who are just cruel and conquering, like they almost believe that they know what's best for the galaxy and they know what's best for all the other races, you know, and they view themselves as sort of like they're there to kind of tame the galaxy and civilize it.
Yeah, it's almost like an imperial British
Yeah.
mentality kind of thing. Yeah.
I like it.
It kind of reminds me of that meme of that like those, I think it's from Twilight, of those like Volturi vampires who are standing on the balcony looking down on people.
Oh yeah,
You'll know
yeah,
it. Yeah. Like sense of superiority.
Yeah, exactly.
Jordan, you're just describing the space French. That's all you're doing.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at like Craft World End, and it's kind of known for being like the biggest, one of the biggest. It was once the most populated and largest of the craft worlds. Now it is on the brink of extinction after being invaded by the Tyranids. They rely now heavily on wraith constructs inhabited by the spirits of their deads. Okay, yeah, so these guys like to do the wraith constructs, which is a fun theme in and of itself.
Oh yeah. I really do like, I like their color schemes. That was just the one thing. It's actually kind of what Christian was saying, the gold and blue. But
Yeah, they look sweet.
There's yellow. Yellow and blue is
they're-
a nice color combo.
Yeah.
Yellow's, as we've said many times on the podcast, there are techniques to help it, but I will tell you that it is very difficult and very
I've
frustrating.
heard,
to paint.
yeah, I've heard.
So,
But yeah, you could make them look similar more with gold though, right? And maybe even like a metallic blue or something like that, or a very light silverish blue, you know?
I like that
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of the metallic, shiny, reflective. Yeah. Or not reflective, but the metallic. Yeah. It makes
You could go metallic blue, or you could do, if you look up color change paints,
Ooh.
something in that blue shifting color.
Now
shift,
we're
is that what
talking
it's called?
high tech. Have you ever painted with that stuff? Like,
No, man, I haven't had the reason to yet, but I'm waiting for the opportunity.
yeah, like I'm just like, do you still have to like shade it properly? Like, do you still kind of do the same painting?
I think they
techniques?
operate like a metallic.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they operate like a regular metallic paint. I could be wrong. Again, I've not used it.
And like my
I might
regular
screw with it if
metallic
you
paint
watch
technique.
or something.
Sorry, like regular metallic paint would be like typically dry brushing on over black. Is kind of the concept, or like.
Ooh. Yeah, I don't know if you
Maybe
would want
not.
to dry brush with this stuff.
That's
You might
what
wanna
I'm
direct
thinking.
apply, but yeah, again, I haven't used it because you might screw with its like shimmer effect.
Yeah.
They and the other thing I question is if you like wash it in another color, if it will dampen that effect as well, right? It's like, is this kind of like the last color you have to apply and just be very careful with it, or how?
I gotta watch some videos on like how you paint with that shit.
Yeah, I'm definitely keen to find an excuse just to use it.
Yeah.
Well, I think I picked my what the Eldar I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm gonna call them, but I still need a name.
Yeah, I like your, flow through to that craft world somehow, Do you spell it differently? You spell it phonetically instead of, I don't know, you could come up with something for sure where you get that tie through.
The existing Eldar craft worlds draw a lot of their naming conventions from Celtic mythology and Celtic holidays. So that could be a source. If you're looking for words to name your army, you could probably find something in that vein.
Okay, that's a good one. I want to mention Purge in the chat says Games Workshop does have a big lawsuit going at the moment to shoot down people trying to rip off their IP. Is that
every couple of years they go on a huge purge of people they consider to be